Second time this week. We are back. Went a little bit late Tuesday night. I'm still trying to recover.
Same. It's better where you are, though.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't get to bed till way. This is one of those nights where you just couldn't get back to sleep, and school started today, so everyone's all tired. So, welcome to number 146. We're gonna dedicate this.
Flying through these things now.
Yeah, we're gonna dedicate this pretty much all to Team State. Before that, we'll do a little house cleaning. Girls regionals are this weekend also, and it sounds like we have broke a pretty good I mean, we have just around 700-800 girls registered, which is almost probably double from last year. So that's pretty cool to see. And I know we just put out I think Brandon does another round of rankings, but I did the rankings, and there were 99 schools represented, which is pretty cool.
That's really cool.
So that's basically a third of the schools have at least one girl ranked or on the watch list. So that's pretty neat to see, and it's gonna be some good wrestling. I know it's getting a lot bigger, and good to see that the girls are getting a lot of recognition for all their work, and the schools are doing pretty well with that. So, any other housekeeping? Any other events going on this weekend? The Bill Kerbal.
Yeah, I mean, Lake County tournament's coming out. It'll be going. I'm sure there's a lot of solid stuff, but I mean, I think Team State's the biggest one.
Yeah, the Gary Invitational in Oklahoma claims to be the oldest invitational. I think them and the Bill Kerbal need to talk, figure out who the true oldest tournament is. Last night had a couple decent matches last night. Cathedral and Columbus East, and Maryville and Crown Point, and they just screwed up all your rankings.
Yeah, there was some ranking stuff that I had in there, and I looked at it and kind of maneuvered it a little bit, but didn't go too crazy. I stayed up late yesterday trying to wrap up the rankings. Wanted to get them out before Team State. I think they're pretty close. I think we're pretty well versed in this. If they're wrong, someone will let me know. But I think a big part, honestly, a big part of it is if you're not posting your results, and you can post your own results, then it's hard for me to tell. Like, I'm looking at the spreadsheet, and obviously I'm searching through results and hitting track wrestling, but for the most part, I think they look pretty good.
Yeah, I was looking over them a little bit. Might be a little bit of surprise in there coming either this edition or maybe the next one. So stay tuned. But yeah, there's some. We kind of looking those over and those results last night, and then I'm like, you got to be kidding me! You're this close to getting them done, and then all of a sudden there's a couple weights where there's some upsets, and so that'll be.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't know. I guess heavyweight Jose Smith lost. The Columbus East kid's really tough. Everyone did all the rankings at the same time too, so that was good to kind of go over what those guys are thinking and see where they're at and kind of pick their mind too. So it was good.
Yeah. So.
But definitely some that you're messed up. Matthew Maldonado beating Sonny Sessa. Sonny Sessa had a huge Al Smith. Matthew lost in the blood round. I know we talked about that on Tuesday. And then beats – I think they're going to be pretty close. Obviously two high lineage wrestling families in Northwest Indiana. But, man, I'm like, dude, how far do you maneuver those guys around? Sonny had an amazing tournament. I don't want to discredit his Al Smith. And obviously I think Matthews wrestled well. Van Tichel and David Maldonado was a 3-1 match. 3-2 match with Reinhardt, Aiden Pellet. Aiden Pellet got his first two losses at Al Smith. Last second takedown. Yeah. I think there was 4 seconds left on the match.
Jeez, yeah. Yeah, it's like Sessa put in 2 days of work and then takes that's not a bad loss. Maldonado's tough as nails, tough, and it's how do you weigh those? And that's the rankings conundrums you get that, Sessa beat a couple guys that beat Maldonado. So, and rankings are, it's a, like, as you always say, the top 5 to 7 are usually pretty easy. After that, you could probably have them about 16 different ways.
Yeah, I think what's one is a young weight. Just kind of like going through it. There's a lot of young wrestlers in that weight.
Mm-hmm.
Sophomores and freshmen that are right in the mix, which is really exciting for the future of the sport. Where some of those guys are going to grow, some of those guys won't grow. Maybe they do the Lane Gilbert and be 120 for their whole life. But or they'll do the Bryce Lowry and they'll be 60s next year.
Yeah, yes, in a couple years. Yeah, so now it's going to be interesting to see how those guys all pan out, especially, like you said, there's some young guys in there, and that kind of was like at the Al Smith, it's like there's some older guys, but some of these young guys have beat these guys, and I know they have, I mean, you're looking at Nate, you look at some of these names, you got a Maldonado, a Field, and a Sessa, you're looking at, I mean, these are, and you throw in someone like Don Brown, who's pretty darn good also.
And that's the area you're talking. Jackson Bradley's in the mix.
Yeah,
Allen.
Yeah.
I think it's really like a young, tough weight. I mean, there's some good seniors in there too, but it'll be interesting. I think the depth. I know I was in not a heated debate. I think people think that I don't like when the board gets crazy. I love when the board gets crazy. Actually, I mean, not like calling people out and telling people they want to fist fight them, but I like this time of year. Like the debates getting going and all that stuff. I always think that's really cool. We were debating. Isn't it funny? I think 2 years ago, was it 2 years ago or last year? I was on the Ohio side. Today I was on the Indiana side.
Yes. Yeah.
How are the winds blowing?
Yeah.
But I think I know that's one of those things. It becomes Indiana's creating more depth.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the things looking over the rankings. And I know I talked about 38 on Tuesday. 38, I think you could probably rank 40 guys, and even the guys outside of the rankings, they have really good wins. A guy like Michael Ortega, who had a tough first round match with Brett Stanton at the Al Smith. I think he wrestled back to the blood round to go the next day. Beat a real tough Luke Reed, who's had wins over Chris Bond and all those guys. So it's an exciting time. 138 in the definitely in the East Chicago semi-stat probably could go one of the deeper weight classes.
Yeah. So moving on, I had to make a little bit of a comment. We were trying to find some photographers for a couple of the team state areas, and I was a little overwhelmed by the amount of responses. Goodness gracious. I know a couple of people who have the notifications on for the Facebook posts and stuff were like, make them stop. So
I think it's exciting. People want to be part of it and help out, which is always cool.
Yeah, definitely say thanks to all those people that sent something to us. We got some people lined up, so that's good. I always like to get some pictures, especially Team State. There's a lot of great action and everything there. So thanks to all those people that reached out. We do. We appreciate, and I'm hoping to maybe get some more people for our semi-states, just because that helps with magazine. Sometimes it's hard to find some people on the magazine, some regionals or some places that are not that are hard to find. So anyway, thanks to those people that's reached out. And then, anything else before we talk about Team State? Before I go on a rant about coaches?
No, I don't think so. I think we got a lot of it out on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Let you do your ranting, man.
Yeah, okay.
It's probably similar to how I feel about some stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're going to get a good rant from me because Tuesday night we were looking at the rosters, and we could see that the rosters were open, which is a common thing. Like their rosters, everyone knows who's on your team by now, where they are, and then all of a sudden yesterday started looking and they were all locked down. So had to make a couple texts, and whoever the whiny crybaby coach was that sent someone a message saying, "Hey, you need to lock the rosters down so no one can see my roster. You're a whiny little person.
Um,
Nothing frustrates me more than we're trying to promote the sport. We're trying to go over these, especially with the small schools where I know the like the Fort Wayne area guys, and we're gonna know some of the ranked guys, but not seeing we can recognize some names, and it's like when those things are locked down, especially those smaller schools, we're not gonna be able to do much other than say, oh, we know Adams Central's real good at wrestling. They're going to be a good small school, but we don't know where where their guys are lining up, and that kind of stuff. So, anyone that wants to do that, you're hurting the sport. And people are scouting your team anyway. If you are so worried about your roster being released, coach your kids better. I mean, you have a weak link at 132. Number one, your opponents are going to know that. If they're going to bump around them, make that kid better. So bumping around him is going to hurt him. It's frustrating that you want to try to pull something like that and think it's going to make you a better team instead of you're just not going to coach your kids better.
Yeah, I think it's always interesting. Like, obviously we get a lot of messages and things like that. And it's like, not that it's frustrating. I mean, it doesn't frustrate me. I think I've become numb to the idea that happens. But like, especially now, like if this was November, let's say it was November 20th, right? Like, I understand, like, it's early, maybe you don't really know, you're going to move some pieces around. This is, like, right after the holiday tournaments. Like, everyone, like, for the most part, is already, like, wrestling at a big event. It's on track. Even the Spartan Classic's on track, which is amazing.
Yes. Yeah.
You're going to have an idea of what, and, like, even to that, like, you can still move people around if you want.
Yeah.
Like, nothing's, like, stopping you. I mean, I just never, I don't coach. So, I mean, my opinion is worth what it is, I guess. Yeah. But, like, I just never get that. I mean, it's tough for me to get, like, I think it's, like, a dying idea, Like, not that it's dying in the sport, but, like, did newspapers stop wanting to cover wrestling, or were coaches being more secretive to, like, what they wanted to spread?
Yeah.
I think it's weird. Like, we don't want to get out there that we're good. Why? Like, you're not, like, the state's not big enough to sneak up on people like that,
Yeah. No, it's someone's gonna say something. We have people all over the state, and whether they are our rankers or other people, they're like, hey, Mike, we were at Podunk Super Duel, and their 132 is really good,
Oh yeah.
But I mean, and like you said, like most of these teams were at holiday tournaments. They were on track wrestling, so we already saw their records. We already saw their who you're gonna probably, if you're rolling them out at Mooresville, Al Smith, Spartan, wherever else you were. If you're rolling them out there, you're probably gonna roll them out for Team State.
You would think so.
Yeah. So yeah, it's.
I mean, I don't know. Does that give you like an extreme advantage?
No.
Like what kind of advantage are you gaining? Like, I'm pretty sure the teams that are in those events that are in this event that know who they're wrestling are gonna be. And like, obviously, I know these are two programs that are not. Like, I'll say these two programs. I don't think that they're hiding things. Like, I know that Crown Point is about promoting the sport and getting their guys pushed, and so is Brownsburg.
Mm-hmm.
Like, those guys are gonna be like, hey, like, come, like, hey, come watch us, like, come do this, come do the article, like, hey, come film our squad and put out. And it's like, dude, like, part of that is like, hey, we get to see behind the scenes of what's going on there.
Yeah.
And I think they've always been pretty open. I mean, my brother's at Crown Point tonight with his son. Yeah. Like, he'll talk to Bill and talk about last night, and I don't know. Like, I know those are big school problems. Maybe it was a small school. I don't know. They didn't tell me who did it, and then obviously, like, I seen that it was locked, and I'm like, oh, maybe it was like state draw of 2020 or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah.
It's just one of those things. Like, I guess every advantage to win. It's. We were talking about it off air, and I'll say it on here too. Like, I think a lot of times that there's more. Like, you'd rather win the CD meeting than win the event. And I think, like, I've been in enough CD meetings where, like, I have no interest, like, no, like, I guess no bias to whatever it is. Like, I'm not like, hey, these are the rankings. I understand how seedings work. Like, Don Brown was ranked higher than he was seated, but I understand why he was seated where he was seated. But, like like there's guys that are like going, and I wasn't in the Al Smith one, so this isn't any Al Smith, but there's guys that would rather win the seeding meeting than compete.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that we're missing the point of like you should be wanting to peak, and that was kind of what the post was today. Like, and I get where Chris is coming from. Like, Revin Dickman is wrestling like one of the toughest schedules in the country. Yeah. Like, not just the state of Indiana. Like, he's wrestling one of the toughest schedules in the country, and I think that's how you get good. I mean, that's what everyone said. He's competing, and he's able to go back and pick apart. Like, sometimes winning is poison, you know. Yep, that's true.
Hayes didn't even show up to the Al Smith one.
I think, like he's taking losses. Like, he's not going to have this sparkling 275-0 record, but like he's going to be better for that. Yeah. Like, he's going to find holes in his game to be able to fix. Now, that doesn't change the way I'm ranking the state, but I do believe that he has a better shot of being nationally ranked right now than Lane Horn does, because Lane Horn's not wrestling that national schedule. He's not competing against those national level guys. Yeah. Like Willie, Josh Lowe, and those guys are not. Like, I don't know how much Indiana results they're really looking at. No. I know they look at Al Smith.
Yeah, they'll look at Al Smith.
I see Josh Lowe said, like, Crown Point looked awesome without Cody Goodwin. I said, yeah, and Anthony Ball.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that part of it is like really, really tough. I mean, I think sometimes like you'd rather win an argument than win matches, and I think that's tough to understand. Like, as like obviously I coach girls softball. Like I don't argue every call. Like, it's like, hey man, like cool, it happened, let's get over it.
Yeah, you're gonna have to move on.
You see some of the top programs that are very chill. Like you see a lot of those guys. Like, when's the last time you seen like McGinley get like fired up, like real fired up?
I don't know if I don't think his heart rate goes over 60 ever.
No, and like that's like one of the best dudes, and I'm like sitting there watching, and like when things are not going his way, he's like, hey, keep wrestling through it, like keep going, and it's like, yeah, like he's just like chill, and I think like I look at some of that stuff and see how the top programs are doing it, and there's some programs that like they do argue a lot, and I don't know, I'm not an official either, so I don't know how that weighs on them, but. Like I just think that sometimes we do it the wrong way. Mm-hmm. Like, we should be looking to peak. I think we should be looking to peak at the state finals, right? Like, like there's always going to be someone that's going to like. Now I'm not obviously like I'm doing rankings and doing a show and answering questions and stuff, but there's always someone that's going to come out and they're going to have a handful of losses. And they're going to make a run, and maybe they're not ranked, or maybe they're on the watch list, and but like you have to understand, like that's what they're doing, right? Like they're getting better through the year. Yeah. I mean, it comes down. It's the weight cutting thing, right? Like, do you go to practice to cut weight, or do you go to practice to get better? Because I think there's a very fine line of that in the sport, and I know there's a lot of people that go to practice to lose weight, to make a weight, and not actually improve their game. And I think that's another thing that I would be like, man, like whoever pulled this off the board, like pull off track is also probably telling kids to cut too much weight.
It's one of those things that, it's the regular season and you want to get your kids to wrestle. I mean, it's just like you said about the arguing, wrestle through it. You're going to get bad calls and refs aren't going to overturn them. And you want to get, it's about the process. And that's what people want to win today. They also want to win tomorrow, but they think winning today is more important than winning tomorrow as of right now. But like even a couple years ago when with Reeve, and we got into that Western event late, and I'm like, hey, you haven't been pushed only a couple matches this year in this COVID year where we didn't have a lot of solid match. We weren't able to go to Al Smith or anything like that. And I was like, hey, do you want to wrestle Herb? He's like, yeah. I go, okay, we're gonna get in this event in a week and a half, and you're gonna get to see him. And it was probably one of the best things for him is to take that loss. It kind of refocused him a little bit. Not that he wasn't focused, and kind of put a little bit more wood on that fire, and end up beating him when it counted at semi-state. And then and if he it's just one of those things that it's about the process, and the kids got to understand that too. It's not you can't argue every call. You're going to get bad calls. You're going to get things, if you're trying to hide your lineup, it's not going to do you any good. Everyone knows your lineup at this point, especially at Team State.
Yeah.
Everyone knows your lineup. I guarantee if I'm looking at my quarter bracket at my first couple matches, I'm like, okay, as a coach, when I was at Garrett, I always found it fun to kind of manipulate your lineup and try to figure out where you can make adjustments. Throw a good backup in there to whether it's a sacrificial lamb or someone that can go there and hey, I know you're not going to get pinned. I guarantee those small schools are all looking at that bracket and saying, okay, who's in my quarter? Who will I get? What can we do? Is there anything we need to do with our lineup?
Do you think like too many times like there's a hypothetical that like you're playing out all these processes and it's like, dude, it's already done. Like the training's done. Like you're not changing. We tell the girls this a lot. And like we were like in a game, like a tight game in Alabama, and we get like a lightning delay, and it's like 1 out, like runners on second and third. The tying runs at third, the winning runs at second, and we have like a 30-minute lightning delay. And I ran through 1,000 scenarios. And I remember like, and Kim didn't play, and I look at Kim, I'm like, I don't know, like what if this? And like she's like, what if a ground ball gets to the third baseman? I think bases were loaded. The third baseman throws it home, and we get double play. I'm like, Kim, what's the chances of that? 30 minutes, girl throws one pitch, ground ball to the third baseman, she throws it home, throws it to first. I took 30 minutes like stressing myself about something that like I really couldn't control.
Yeah.
And like you can move guys around, but like at the end of the day, like you got to go out there and wrestle. And like this happens every single year. Every year they've had this event, which is an amazing event. I love the atmosphere. I was just actually explaining to like my buddy that wrestled with me in high school, and he's like, "What do you mean? There's no more Team State?" I'm like, "Yeah, it hasn't been around for a while, bud." And he's like, "We used to like love going to Team State." I'm like, "Yeah, I know." And he's like, "What do they do now?" I was like, "Well, they do these classes." And he's like, "Well, that's stupid. It's only one." I'm like, "No, it's actually it's a really cool event. Mm-hmm. It's like probably one of the coolest events of the year." And there's always going to be someone that comes out of this event that you didn't like know or you didn't think is just going to come out a hero. And it might not be your best kid. Maybe it's your worst kid.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like, I hope you're not telling me, hey, you're a worst kid, like, get it done. But, like, it came down, I think, I know a couple of matches came down a couple years ago to two guys that were like 500.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, man, like, go out there and just do your best.
Yeah.
You hope that it comes down to Brayton Lee, the year Brownsburg won, and Brayton was like the last match, and you're like, awesome, right?
Yeah.
Perfect, best case scenario. Like the last match is our best guy.
Yeah.
But there's gonna be, and that's the coolest thing about the sport that I think people outside of the sport don't understand, because they look at it as an individual sport. Mm-hmm. But the dual aspect, like someone's gonna have to be a hero, and it's not necessarily gonna be the guy that gets a fall. Maybe it's the guy that saves points. Like, hey, whoever is gonna wrestle returning state champion, he keeps it to a.
Oh, I can guarantee Coach Cooper has an encyclopedia on the other 7 teams.
Yeah, and I think that's like. I think far too often we try to keep this like almost like a secret society. Yeah. And we we don't always come on here, and obviously we do the show. We do a lot with the site. I think we're very open people when we're at the meets and we're like talking to people. We're not like, like hey, like don't talk to us, whatever. Like it's never like that. I think we're very like friendly people. But like we keep it like, hey, like if you're not in this like community, then you don't belong. I think we need to be more inclusive to like promoting the sport.
Yes.
And I think like we need to like let everyone know how great the sport is.
Yep. Yeah. And you know what? You're going to roll. I mean, I'm looking at 1A right now, and, Prairie Heights, South Mott, Rochester, and that little quarter. I guarantee Coach Smith has, whether South Mott has their stuff in there or not, I guarantee they kind of know where their strong points are. They know if they might need to bump their 32, up. I'm guaranteed South, Mott and Rochester all kind of have the same. Okay, Rochester knows, hey, this is where Prairie Heights is strong. We might be a little bit, do we need to do anything, or where are we going to know where we can win, where we're going to lose? You plan that out, especially when you get to this level. And I mean, you got to roll it out and run it, but at the same time, those coaches are doing that. All these coaches got to this level because they do things like that, and hiding your rosters isn't going to do anything. Isn't going to. Oh wow! Ooh, we don't know. We don't know what's and any those rosters aren't always set in stone at that time. You'll get the weigh-in sheets and see, hey, so and so is down to down a weight class. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah,
I know
we were actually doing that right now.
Yeah, we were actually seeing that before. There's some guys that are listed at weights that are very interesting. Are they going to make them? I don't know. They might just be playing a little bit of game. I've done that before. I would do that if I were some of those coaches. I'd mess with some, just to kind of we're looking at Brownsburg and Crown Point. They have a couple interesting weight designations for some guys. I would do it. I would do it if I was if those coaches. If I was there.
Guys that were injured that I was told they're done for the year, and we thought they were gonna make this weight, and then they said no chance, and now they're at that weight, and you're like, oh, maybe you weren't done for the year. Okay.
Yeah, maybe you were just maybe you just went to Jenny Craig for a while and lost some weight.
Yeah, I mean it wasn't that much, but man.
Yeah, no. So yeah, no. I mean. And that's what that's the fun part. You can kind of play games like that as a coach. That's not I would never call that shady or anything. That's kind of playing playing the game.
The top programs are the top programs for a reason. We talk about this. This is like something I talk about at nauseum.
Yes.
Like wrestling is like one of the only sports that like you can like really like get better by putting in a lot of work. Like, if you wrestle, like, you will get better. It just is. And the guys that are at the top are the guys that you see at everything. Like, the guys that are, like, the top 1%, the guys that are competing in this event are coaches that are at every event. And I'm sure if we have a lot of wives watching, they're probably like, yeah, they're at every event, every weekend. And it's not just, October through February. It's through the whole summer, and they're the Fargo coaches, and they're the, Team Indiana coaches, and they're going to be at middle school state. And it's like, man, like it's a grind. And like those coaches are going to grind and get better. And that's like the biggest thing. You're not going to surprise them. Like maybe you can bump around, but like if you're getting better in this sport, it's because you're like wrestling, right? Like you're at events. And guess what? Those guys are seeing your kids. They've probably coached those kids. They probably know a lot about those kids.
Yeah.
Oh, you were on Fargo. Cool. Quinn was a Fargo coach. You think you're fooling Cascade?
Quinn saw this guy at camp. He knows if he's a hard worker. He knows if he's not a hard worker. He knows a lot more about that kid than even me. Me going to Folkshouse State and coaching against the kid. He's gonna know a lot more. He knows what makes him mad. What hey. He has a really good, this and that. So, no, that's, you're 100% right. I mean, I'm just looking at the 4 and the 3A guys teams, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, those people are at Folkshouse State. They're at Freestyle State. They're at Virginia Beach.
These smaller schools, you guys all live within like 30 miles of each other, right?
Yeah.
Like all these guys are in semi-state. You guys all know each other.
Yeah. Yeah. So, anyway, let's get to Team State. Probably more focus on 4A, but we're going to go over 1 and 2A. 1A, Rochester, 1 seed, 2 seeds, Cascade.
3... Is Rochester wrestling Western tonight? Was that old? That's old, right?
That's old. They posted they wrestled Huntington North, I believe, tonight. Someone posted a link to their to the stream there.
Okay. I see it was on the board. It was just up.
Yeah. Tell City, 2-time defending champs. Their 4th seed. Yeah, West Central, I believe, is the 5.
East Chicago semi-state getting represented a little bit in here. I like it.
Yeah. You got the Adams Central, Cowan, Bluffton. That's the J County regional quarter bracket. That should be an interesting. I believe Cowan and Bluffton have a couple common opponents that are pretty close. Rochester, we've talked about a lot. They have some pretty good guys.
Oh yeah, some really good guys.
Yeah, especially at the bookends. Lane Horn, Ethan Holloway is pretty good. Brant Beck, Grayson Guard, Deming and Beck also. So they're pretty, and kind of the 1 and 2A level, kind of what it takes at that level is you got to have 3 or 4 guys that are going to probably beat about 95% 75% of the 1A or 2A guys. You got to have about 3 or 4 guys that are going to win about 75%. And then you just got to have three or 4 guys that can hold their own, and then you're going to have a real good dual team at that level.
Oh yeah, I think. Oh no, that froze for a second.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think that that's and like Dane does an amazing job. And if you don't feel like Dane does a job, you got to go to Dane Dak Bell 47 at Hotmail. I don't know what but I do look at it like you're right. Like I think Rochester's going to be favored in a lot of those matches. Now, could they lose? Of course, that's the beauty of the sport. But like you have a guy like Lane that you might be getting 6.
Yeah.
And against a team like Tell City, who at Mater Dei was forfeiting 2 weights. I'm not saying Tell City's 106 pounder is terrible. I have no clue, but Lane's really good. Like it's going to be hard to give up those bonus points like that. Tell City also a really talented team. They're a 2-time defending champ. They have a good core of kids that are going to win a lot of matches. If you can find 8 wins in a duel, there's a good chance you're going to win that duel. I mean, it's just that's the easiest math I can put out there.
Yeah, Tell City has a lot of has their records up. Well, they return. They've promoted that they return 13 guys, but they've only really ran out 12 in every match. So they're going to be spotting 12 points, which is when it comes down to a duel with someone like with any of those teams. I mean, any of those top 4 or 5 teams, it's going to be a dogfight. Walter Hagedorn's pretty tough. Coy Hammock's pretty good. Kelby Glenn, Braden Lane, Tice DuPont, Landon Terry, Noah Terry. They have some pretty good guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They have 7 guys. They really have 7 guys that can win probably 95% of those matches. Like I said, 75% of those matches at the 1A level, which is pretty darn good. They got to find another win. They basically have to find one more win.
And I think where they're they have some flexibility in that 35 or 38, 45 area, but they're really tough in there. Like, how do you maneuver some of that? Who's gonna have the most movable parts too?
Yeah.
I didn't give the Trikoff this year. I know Southmont's there. Prairie Heights always well coached. North Posey's won it before, right? They're in the same bracket. They were the champ before Tell City.
Yes. Yeah, the South has been kicking the North's butt at 1A lately. North Posey won it 3 or 4 years ago.
West Central has the Fritzes. They're pretty tough, 32 and 38. So, I mean, I think it's, pretty well done. I know there was some talk, like they were hoping that Tell City would be a little higher, but I think this was, kind of what I thought it would be.
Yeah. Yeah, so, Adam Central has some pretty good, Adam Central is one of those teams that they have 4 or 5 really good guys that are going to pretty much all their matches against 1A level. And they have that, they have that mixture. Cascades, same way. They have some, and it's going to come down to those matchups. It's going to come down to where, if you have a couple movable parts, I know Tell City has that Max Fort window, who is pretty solid. He's sitting there right at like 45. You could insert him, but you have to bump 4 guys. Maybe you do that. You have to probably maybe do that at some point, possibly, to get a dual win. But at the same time, and that gives them a little flexibility. But it is just one of those things that's going to be interesting to watch.
How many guys in here are returning? Prairie Heights has won it before, right?
Yeah.
North Posey, Tell City, Adam Central.
And that's about it. I do have it. Let's see. Tell City's won the last 2. North Posey, Adam Central, Prairie Heights, Adam Central. Busco's the only champion that's not in the field. Previous champion that's not in the field.
It's pretty cool. You see a lot of returning. Adam Central kind of looking. I know they had a late run in football, right? They had a real good run.
Yeah. They went the state finals, so yeah.
They have some really talented guys. They have a good mix across the board of some good bigger guys, some guys in the middle. Always well coached. Cowan's a team that I think has some really good individuals too. Every time I see them in like some tournaments, I'm always very like surprised like how good they are. And obviously, I think they're well coached.
Yeah. So. Yes, they are. Yeah. And Adam Central has an interesting line, like you said, because they I think they have some movable parts. They aren't they're bunched up top. They up top from 82 on up. They're pretty solid, but even so, in the middle and everything, they have some good guys that they might be able to trade a 6-6 sometimes instead of getting a 3-6. And that's a part of the strategy. That's a lot of the fun of coaching at that level is kind of saying, hey guys, maybe we're gonna get a 3-6 out of these two weight classes. We're gonna win at this weight, but we're gonna get pinned here. What if we just trade 6-6, or get 3-3? Come out even, or come out of 4-3, whatever it is. Save 1 or 2 points, and that's gonna help out. So that could make them very kind of dangerous in that area of being able to throw in. They have 2 6-pounders, one's 17-7, the other's 5-3. Maybe if you see a little bit weaker guy at 6 and bump up their their 17-7 guy. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works out. And I'm guessing they're looking at those kind of scenarios, and I don't know these teams as well as we know the other teams, but that's definitely a possibility of them playing around with their lineup in those bigger matches.
But I do think, and Travis is right, 160 is nasty. There's some really good 160s here. Loshi, Hutchinson, Terry, and back. Those guys are really good. There's a lot more star power in the 1A, I think.
Mm-hmm.
That's really good, right?
Yeah.
Like you have, guys that are top 5. You have a number 1 in there, at least one number 1.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think that'd be an interesting one. I think Bluffton and Cowan, but a lot like that's like thing. Like I'm not trying to like go back to the thing, but like you have a good amount of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Fort Wayne teams. They have a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
You're not like fooling those guys. There's one, they kind of have to have an idea what you're doing because you have an amazing rankings guy in Caleb there.
Yes.
That's got a good idea, and he's getting you guys. You have to like kind of maneuver for semi-state. So I think that one's tough. Like that bottom quarter bracket, South Adams is a late ad. Always real tough Starfires. I think that was a good ad. I thought they were in there. IndianaMat comes out of the East Chicago semi-state. They're solid. I think this is an event that's like helped them grow their program. I know that for years they were saying like they were down to X amount of wrestlers, and now they've doubled up their amount of people in. So that'll be interesting. And I think Cascade has some movable parts too. I know talking with Quinn. So I know Sean Pratt was really good. I think, but they're solid. Those are the guys that like are surprised when they come to East Chicago. There's always a couple IndianaMat kids that like put on some shows.
Yeah. And
it's like I don't get a ton of IndianaMat information. Like I'm not gonna lie. I do know that there's a Fair Oaks farm over there. I like to go there. Sometimes I like to eat there. It's about 20 minutes from my house. So nice. They have good ice cream.
Yeah.
But I think that'd be a solid one. And I think Quinn has some like really movable parts where he has some high level guys that I know that's made scratch at different weights that he can kind of move around. I think he's getting some pieces back. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what they can roll out there. And if Quinn came on here and was like, "Yep, it was me. I pulled the rosters." I'm like, "You rascal! You're a growing the sport guy."
Yeah, yeah. I'd give him a little tongue lashing.
But I think like it'll be interesting. Like all the stuff we said about wrestling a tough schedule, they've really gone out and like sought out tough competition. Mm-hmm. So like some of their guys might have like not have the like sparkling records, but they were at a tough Mooresville. They wrestled a tough dual schedule. And I think that could pay off. He said it wasn't him. I think that'll pay off for those guys. Like those guys are gonna be. I think they won't panic when they're in those situations.
Yeah.
And also to that, like you guys, you got an All-American, a guy who was an All-American at Fargo. So that'll be a really interesting day at the 1A. And 1A and 3A are at the same gym, right? They're at Franklin.
Yep. Yes, they are. Yeah. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see, especially Tell City. 2-time champs, return a lot of guys, and have some pretty good hammers. So
if it comes down to Tell City and Rochester, I think that's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, Tell City beat them last year, and I kind of was probably thinking Rochester was going to win that, and Tell City ended up pulling it out. So it's going to be it's going to be fun to watch. kind of keep
It
our
does
eyes
come
on.
down to matchups, really.
Yeah.
And I think Tell City also wrestles. Obviously, they're at Mater Day. I think you're looking at, you might not see like, oh man, like, Coy Hammock lost at Mater Day. Like, yeah, but he's still, a semifinalist from a couple of years ago. He's really good.
Mm-hmm.
You have all these guys that have been. I think they've wrestled Mater Day a couple of times, right?
Yeah. I think they might have had a duel with them.
I know they did at the old
The barn.
sports center.
Yeah, the barn. Yes. Yeah.
I think that'd be really cool. And like a lot of this is gonna come down to matchups, but I think that like it'll be interesting to see how those guys match up because I think in the middle, where Tell City is really good, you're kind of maybe not where Rochester's their best.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because they let me see. Rochester has good 52-60. Where is Tell City? There it is. Tell City has at 52 Tice DuPont, pretty darn good. I mean, Tice DuPont, Grayson Guard.
Hope that comes. Don't you like kind of like not that like you want to put the coaches through that, but you kind of do because obviously we're not coaching.
Yeah.
But like, don't you hope it comes down to 52-60 in that duel? Wouldn't that be exciting?
Yeah, I mean it could. Yeah, and then 60 Landon Terry's 24-4. That would be Little Beck. So that that'd be. I mean those two matches, right? Those are swing matches. If Tell City wins those two matches, I'm pretty confident they'll probably win the duel. Because number one, their two guys are winning, and number two, you're beating two of their better guys that they're expecting to win 95% of their matches.
I think Tell City has an unknown at 220 and heavyweight, and that's going to be huge. 220 might not matter.
Yeah.
Beck's pretty good, but heavyweight, maybe you could sneak one out there if you had a guy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think like you said against Rochester 220 you're gonna get beat pretty bad, but at heavyweight I think Rochester they have a normal heavyweight. They don't have anyone that's a super stud. That would be a toss-up match most of the time, and that's gonna be one of those matches that you could get if you come down there. So that's gonna be a good duel. Definitely, I know we'll be paying attention to those duels and stuff, and because we'll both be at 4A. I believe you're still coming.
I'm still going.
Yeah, so we're gonna
got it all planned out. I have it all mapped out. I got my old map. I have my map quest. I printed it off with turn-by-turn directions.
Nice. So we'll move on to a level. This is gonna be fun. Jay County's wrestled Garrett and Delta, and they've not wrestled Belmont. Norwell, they wrestled Norwell, I believe. So they've wrestled three of the better teams there. Beat them pretty handily. The Delta match will be interesting. I think they might be able to move around a little bit. Delta might, but Jay County's the favorite right now. Wawassee's solid. Wawasee, and so is Rensselaer. Rensselaer Central had a really good tournament at North Montgomery.
Yeah. I mean, I know they had that duel, a super duel, where Cascade was there. I think they lost some of it to weather when we had the great negative 30 days.
Yeah.
But that Cascade was there. I think Seem Strong, Iron Bear is strong.
Yes. Yes.
Where those guys were all there. I think Hamilton Heights was there at that also. But Jay County, this is kind of like, I don't even think they're all seniors, right? They're still pretty young. Like Tony Wood's still young.
Yeah.
Cameron Clark's still young. They're all juniors. They're all underclassmen. Tay Curtis, Daniel Moore. Like those guys are all pretty good. Wank.
Yeah. Moore's a senior. Riley's a senior. They're back up 45, and then their 60-pounder's a senior. I don't know. They have a couple guys that are ungradable, which is typical for Portland. They might be 25 as a sophomore there. That's mean.
That Wawasee Rensselaer Central right off the bat would be good. Mm-hmm. Two East Chicago semi-state teams. Wawasee has, again, individually, they have some really strong individuals. They had a handful of guys placed at Al Smith. which we talked about it on Tuesday how tough the Al Smith and how deep it was, but like 6 was right in the mix. 52, 38 was right in the mix. 70 was right in the mix. 82, 95. So it'll be interesting to see how good those guys kind of match up. I know Rensselaer. I thought them getting Mason Stanley down to 26 was huge for their lineup overall. It kind of got some other pieces in. You kind of seen that at Northmont where they wrestled a lot better. They were really cool. They wrestled Western there, right? In a real tight duel. Came down to the last match.
Yeah, I think so.
No, not Western. Western was at Al Smith.
They wrestled Rensselaer.
Yeah, who did Rensselaer wrestle?
Rensselaer beat Cascade. Cascade beat Hamilton Heights, and Hamilton Heights beat Rensselaer. Or no? No. We're talking about Northmont.
Yeah, who did they wrestle at Northmont?
They wrestled Rochester.
Yeah, they wrestled Rochester. Came down a real close duel. I think they're wrestling well right now. I think Coach Hickman is doing a really good job. They have some strong individuals. A lot of guys right in the mix, or right outside the mix in the semi-state rankings. Mm-hmm. Good heavyweight. So that'll be an interesting right out the bat duel to get to Jay County, who's really tough. Jay County's a really good squad.
Yeah, it's gonna be. Jay County's pretty well loaded. Pretty much 106 through 52, and then they have some pretty solid guys up top. You're gonna have to match up real well with them. You got Norwell, Owen Valley. Owen Valley beat Bloomington South last night, either that or Tuesday night, and then the winner gets Garrett. I'd assume possibly a Norwell versus Garrett match should be pretty good.
I think Norwell. I see someone just post that Norwell could have a different lineup. I had like a handful of their guys that are doubled up in some weights on the rankings list, and I just kind of looked through. I'm like, man, like where's this guy? Because he hasn't wrestled and kind of moved over some stuff. They have some strong individuals. I really do think that they're a good squad. I think they've been a good squad. I think Owen Valley is a good squad. I think they were in the mix. I think they were in the mix to get there last year. They were voted. They have some really strong individuals too. Weaver's really good. Their 95 is really good. Henshaw, I believe. So they have some strong individuals also. That'll be a tough one. Not Rochester, but Garrett looked really good at Al Smith.
Yeah, they have some solid kids up and down their lineup. Pretty much most of their guys won a match or two, which is expected. So Norwell does not have their lineup in. So Mr. Smith, tell your coach to do that. They have a bunch of unknowns, hailing from parts unknown, also known as Aussie in Indiana. But yeah, Garrett has a pretty solid team top to bottom, and I don't know if they have very many movable parts, which can kind of limit you, especially at this level. I don't know where, looking, I know their kids fairly well, and I talked to Nick a lot. It's like, okay, who can you move in and out? Are there any backups that you can throw in, to get a better feel? Obviously, it looks like they have a 26 that's 12-4, which isn't bad. That maybe you could move Brady up, possibly. I don't know.
I think one of the things with Garrett too is I think they have a lot of guys that are able to score bonus points.
Yes.
They have a lot of guys that are pinners, and I think that's huge, especially in a duel, like getting those. Especially getting those.
Pretend on this Crawfordsville.
So I think that could be a really good duel. So good to see Owen Valley, and I felt like Owen Valley was a little stronger last year. I know they lost some seniors, but still a solid squad. They're at Mooresville, so had a couple guys make it to the finals.
Yeah,
so that should be a good duel right off the bat. But Norwell is tough. I think that's one of those teams that I think we've talked about that they have a really just solid squad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have some pretty good kids, and yeah, it's like we said, that whole formula, and I think they might have 12 guys that can win about 60-70% of their matches at least, if not more. Against that 2A level, which is going to make it. They're going to be good enough to beat anybody. The next quarter, you got Western, Belmont, Prairie Heights, or New Prairie.
I heard through the grapevine that New Prairie won at Belmont first round.
Oh, ooh, wow. Got
That's
some
what I heard.
trash talk. The Cougars are trash talking the Braves.
I don't know why. They just said they felt like they matched up with good with them. They weren't
Yeah.
like trash talking. They just felt like it was a good matchup.
Yeah. Belmont has
Um,
some. Belmont has. They're not the Belmont that they were last year, but they still have some solid pieces. New Prairie has some solid pieces, so that's gonna be a real good one. Western's real good. I think
yeah, I
Western.
think.
I'm looking ahead, but Western Delta, Western J County, possibly. Western's pretty solid top to bottom.
I think Newberry has in the next update for the rankings. I think they'll have 4 or 5 guys ranked.
Okay.
I know 95, 220, and I think Belmont's pretty good there. I mean, those could be big matches.
Mm-hmm.
Neil Johnson and Clayton Dusher. Obviously, have Jeffrey Hyvert, who's been killing everybody. Um, but Belmont has some really strong individuals too, so that'll be an interesting first round one. Western is tough, top to bottom. Like, just I thought overall, seeing them at Al Smith, like 6th placed, 20 was in the finals, went out a 3-time or 2-time defending champ. 26 had to like win a tough spot to get into his in the lineup. So I think they have a pretty good backup there too, right?
Yeah. They have.
I think they have a guy with a semi-state qualifier as a backup at 26, right?
The Aiden Rabs at 32. Here's a semi-state qualifier. He's behind Lisner. Robert Din, who I'm pretty positive was a semi-state kid. They have a couple guys bunched up right there. So that's one of those things that's Rab's a senior and he's a backup right now.
There's a lot of lineup on here, man.
Yeah,
they got 3 heavyweights, 2 220s, 3 95s, 2 82s, 2 270s, 160, 152, 245s, 238s. That's pretty good for a 2A.
Yeah,
they have some pieces to say the least.
Yeah, so they have a couple. They might be able to move some guys around. I know Lisner's pretty darn tough. So is Rab, Din. I'm not exactly sure. I mean, they have 2 freshmen at 45, so maybe they're bumping a little bit there, depending on matchups.
First 2 L's at Al Smith. He was undefeated coming in.
Yeah, nice. So that's gonna be you got Betts right there at 52, Deglin Peak, who's starting to get better and better. Yeah, there's really not any holes in their lineup. Their heavyweight's not horrible. He's probably going to win a good share of 2A matches. They have a pretty good team. That's going to be. I think they might. They might match up the best with a team like Jay County, because they have someone like Tishner who can win a match there at 20, 26. Bumgardner, Lisner. They can hang with Jay County's stronger area.
That'll be an interesting deal because they're really good where they're both really good at, right?
Yeah, and even we're talking about matchups and stuff. Even keeping those Jay County kids that are their better guys down low, keeping them to decisions is just as good as a win, because they're used to getting 6. Now they're gonna have to rely on some of their lesser guys, in the middle or up top, to get wins. And it's one of those things. Which, like I said, I've been harping on. The matchups here play, and there's that chess match there with hey, Ty Lisner, you don't need to win. You just need to stay in the match. Give yourself a chance to win late. If not, a decision's just as good.
Oh, he's tough, man.
Yeah, and he's good. I mean, he's gonna, or no, I guess.
You got a kid you can throw out there like Rob against Tony Wood and say, hey, like your seniors have some points, possibly.
Yeah.
Go up.
Yeah.
So that'd be good, and then you have bets in there, and you have some guys that are hammers too.
Yeah.
So that could be a really good duel, especially if it gets to there, because it could be Belmont pull out some of that Decatur magic, right?
Yes. Hopefully we don't get a write up for that. Already been there, done that one time. Yeah, now that Belmont's one you can't sleep on. You can't sleep on a Belmont. That, I mean, there's that tradition there. There's that Belmont magic that if you sleep on them, you're gonna be in for a rough evening.
they'll pull a baker out of the stands for some, and they'll be like, "Where did you guys get a baker? Where did you guys,
As long as they're the
They're doing
drywallers, I can't. The drywallers
gun.
are the
They got a
wrestlers, and there's some other bakers that are basketball players. I can't remember what their job title
got
is.
a Gunsid in here. Like you gotta, you got like just
A
the same
Myers,
names
a
over and
Gunsid,
over. Yeah, you got a Myers. You got some more Myers in here.
yeah. So, and then going down, you got that other quarter bracket: Hamilton Heights, Heritage Hills, and Delta. Um, that's going to be an interesting quarter bracket. Hamilton Heights has a
Yeah,
lot of pretty solid guys. Delta's pretty solid top to bottom. So that, I mean, I'm guessing no one wanted to see as far as those top four seeds. Hamilton Heights is one of those teams that you're not exactly lining up to wrestle them because they have some solid guys top to bottom, and that's gonna
yeah.
be that's
They're
gonna
gonna
be
be
a good
well
duel.
coached. They're gonna
Yeah,
be fired up.
yeah,
I think they feel like they're underseeded.
yes,
Um, did they just wrestle Heritage shows at the Cub Classic? Was it?
yeah. Cub Classic. It was an individual tournament, but yeah, they saw a lot of those guys, so might be some rematches there. So that should be it'll be interesting to see what kind of adjustments Heritage Hills makes. Do they make a good some adjustments and you know reverse some wins and things like that. So
And then you got Hamilton Heights, Heritage Hills. I think Hamilton Heights won that event, so they're probably the favorite. And then against Delta, I think that's a good matchup. That second round matchup could be really good.
mhm.
I think Cody's done a good job at Delta, but I mean sometimes you want to get that first match out of the way, and then Delta has some really good wrestlers, man. Obviously Bollinger's right up at the top at 106. Wrestling, at a high level. They just wrestled at Mooresville. Mosier's wrestling well. They're pretty good right in the middle. They're kind of good where Hamilton Heights is good at too, right?
Yeah,
Hamilton Heights has some good 45, like 32. Those guys are all pretty good in those solid spots. So a lot of those could turn out to be swing matches. Hamilton Heights real good on the backside. Like sounds like they have a huge heavyweight.
yeah. He better lose a
Uh,
pound or two because he won't make weight, from what I've gathered.
they sound like he's a pretty big man. So you have some guys just solid, and Hamilton Heights is like I said, they're gonna be ready to go.
Yeah, so that's a good quarter bracket right there.
The
Obviously,
whole second round of that, like the first round, there's gonna be some good matches. The second round is gonna be really interesting. There'll be a lot of interesting individual matchups, even some ones where maybe like where people are favorite. Like I don't I like to see possibly if Rensselaer beats Wawasee, at 26, Mason Stanley, and there are a lot of ranked wrestlers in there.
hmm yeah. So that should be a good one. Obviously, you're looking at possibly a Delta Western semifinal, which should be good, and then possibly Delta Western, Jay County, Garrett. A lot of good matchups, and I think, and I've 2A's kind of. I think Jay County's a little bit ahead, but I don't think they're that far ahead. And some adjustments, some matchups that they that don't it could come down to matchups with them. You're
Yeah,
gonna have to match up well. You're gonna have to kind of like a Western, like we were talking about. Western matches up well with them in the lower end, where they're gonna go head to head with it's gonna be a battle of some of their better guys, and someone's gonna win those matches, and that's gonna kind of set the tone for the rest of the duel.
yeah, and it'll be interesting to just kind of see where like the Westerns bringing a lot. There's a
Yeah,
lot of wrestlers there.
yeah,
Like you have some guys that can move around, have some pieces. But also to that, like you're gonna have to get past, a returning champion Belmont or a former champion Belmont. Garrett's won it before. Has Jay County won it before or no?
no, they've never won it. Wawasee's won it before. And let's see. It was Belmont, Garrett, Belmont, Western, Wawasee, Yorktown, Belmont, then a bunch of Yorktowns.
Yeah, Yorktown was running things back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is cool. Like you hope to see, some guys that you don't normally see. I mean, there's a lot of Fort Wayne in here too. We talked about it before. There's a higher concentration of smaller schools in the Fort Wayne area, but you have some Evansville in there. You have some East Chicago in there. one Newcastle in there. So
Yeah, so it's just be interesting. It's going to be fun to watch. I think it's going to be a pretty good day of wrestling at 2A. That's at Jay County under the watchful
they're
eye
letting
of the
Jay County wrestle in Jay County. Rigged.
yeah under the watchful eye of the Patriot.
So everybody else is wrestling in the Indy area, and those guys are wrestling in Jay County.
Yeah,
I find that suspicious.
suspicious. Hey, are you gonna go challenge the Patriot?
No,
No.
I'm gonna text. I'm gonna text Wood and ask him why he's pulling strings over here.
So we'll go up to 3A. 3A is interesting this year. That past couple of years, we kind of had a good grasp on it, and I think there's a lot of parity in 3A this year.
I think there is too.
And Roncalli's the 1 seed, Mishawaka's the 2 seed, Columbus East is the 4, 5 is 3 is Greenfield Central, 4 is Columbus East, Floyd Central.
Can I tell you? Can I tell you? Like, I don't know how I missed this, but this is the first time I've seen this bracket.
Nice.
Columbus East was a late ad. They got the 4 seed. That's awesome. Congratulations, Coach
Yeah.
Cooper.
Yeah.
We brought Dustin on. He finessed the Columbus East Olympians a 4 seed.
Dude, that's the Dustin magic. Screw the Belmont magic.
This is no, they're really good. We saw them at House Smith. They obviously wrestled Cathedral last night, but this is a wide open field. I think this is a pretty solid, like top to bottom. Every duel in here is gonna be really good.
Yeah, yeah.
Or at least have some like intriguing matchups, to say the least.
Yeah, Ron Collie, Hamilton. Why am I seeing Terre Haute South first round? I think Terre Haute South might be a little bit under the radar. Ron Collie's pretty solid, but there's no one that's like jumping out in this class. Like the past couple years, you kind of saw where there are 2 or 3 teams that kind of were separated. I don't know. I could see a Columbus East winning this. I'm not. That's the thing. I think Columbus East, Coach Cooper does.
On our face, huh?
Yeah. Columbus East does they do a great job, and those kids are gonna be fired up, and they wrestle together as a team and stuff. And would I be utterly shocked? No. Would I be utterly shocked if Floyd Central wins? No. Coach Sisson and them, they do a really good job, and they'll have their kids ready to battle, and they'll scrap. Would I be surprised?
Jump rope in the house?
Yes. Oh, he'll be jump roping in Franklin.
Bro, he is lean, right? We haven't, dude. I haven't even talked about this all year. This has been like one of those things I keep forgetting about. Dude, Sisson is really lean. Like that's all he's doing is jumping rope.
Yeah.
He's like extra lean like that.
Yeah, I guess that's what jump roping does to you. He's like Buddy Lee. He's done it for like 500 days. It might be 2 years by now. I don't know. He's been doing it.
He's traveling all across the U.S. and doing jump rope trips.
Yeah.
Tricks, man. It's crazy.
Yeah. Hobart Greenfield Central. That should be a good first round match. East Central was a champ 2 years ago. I know they've lost a couple guys, but you can't overlook them. I think Mishawaka has a real good team.
Shout out to Coach Sandiford, got his 100th dual win last night.
Yeah, definitely. So that's going to be this whole bracket's kind of. I know Dane always gets stressed out because he wants everything to go perfectly, while you're like, I want chaos. I love chaos.
Dang, Mac, you're gonna put him out there like that?
Have you heard the Jeremiah Maggart theory?
No.
No, he says that if he gets a wrist and a half on you, he will pin you no matter what. He even said that somebody at the this may have been a few Diet Pepsis in at the Pittsburgh Wrestling Classic, but he even pointed to maybe an Olympic champion and said, if I had a half an wrist on that person, I could pin him.
I'm trying to think. It's gonna be like the Master Like the dodgeball thing. We let the dodgeball thing grow. When Penn was beating everybody in dodgeball. Now at the state finals, we're gonna clear out that practice gym, and and we're just going to call people down and let Bagger put them in a wrist and a half and see how long they can fight it off for.
Yeah, I wanted him to try that theory on Christian Carroll, but I guess he kicked him out of school or something.
What if that's why Christian Carroll left?
We do not know. I mean,
there's no confirmation that's why Christian isn't wrestling this year.
Maybe it is. Maybe it was a loser leaves town match.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah. So
my brother goes to Howe tomorrow. I'll ask him. I'm gonna tell him to ask Andrew. Show up at the state finals. He doesn't have a lot of neck to get that half on.
He said, and he pointed to a couple people, and we were going to ask said Olympic champion, hey, would you like to try this theory out? And Jeremiah was like, no, don't bother him. He looks like he's kind of busy right now. So
what if he did though? What if he just ran this half straight over the top and stuck him? Would you?
That would confirm that his thesis.
Did he hit this on Sisson? Is this what's being reported?
No. He just claimed that he could do that on Sisson. So,
okay. I thought maybe him and Sisson were wrestling. He caught him in the wrist and a half, put him down.
No, there was no actual wrestling. Just a lot of talking and theorizing on what would happen if you had a half and a wrist.
What was the old? Well, remember when they used to bring those they probably still do. I don't know why they said they used to. They used to have those jump ropes. Was it Buddy Lee jump ropes?
Yeah.
Who was it? Was it Buddy Lee? Who was it?
Yeah, it's Buddy Lee. Sisson's sponsored by him now. He got a shout out. Yeah, he used a Buddy Lee jump rope. He got shouted out by him. He was hey, this is my 365th day in a row, and Buddy Lee gave him a shout out or something on social media.
No way, man. Back to the brackets.
That was a crazy detour. Uh-oh. Okay, there you're frozen for a second. Okay, 3A. Whew.
That's how crazy that was to me right now. My internet was gonna go out.
So yeah.
I think Columbus East is good enough to win it. They obviously they're always in the mix. New Haven ended up dropping. I think they lost a couple from last year. Obviously lost Ocampo. I think that Owen Doster's hurt.
Playing fetch with your cat.
Yeah, my cat brings. He keeps bringing me this. He's like a dog, so.
Yeah. So yeah.
3A. What did Mishawaka have placed at the Al Smith? They had 13, 26, 32, 38,
52,
52,
70,
95, 70.
Yeah.
So they're pretty good. I mean, East Central's obviously. I seen Thrine pin Wolf last night. Wolf's down at 26. They have some really strong individuals. Maybe Wolf will go up and wrestle Czar, but if not, he can wrestle Will Mason. Hobart, Greenfield Central will be good. Greenfield Central has some real tough individuals also. I think they made some roster moves I think made them better. I know they put their 13-pounder went down to 6. He's pretty solid. Hobart's solid, man. I think what Hobart has, just double checking here, the only region team in here, is that if you've never wrestled a Hobart or a Portage, a Maryville, those guys are very physical. It's a very physical style. You're gonna be in some matches where you're gonna be man, this is pretty tough. It's just a hard-nosed style of wrestling. So I don't know if I don't think they've wrestled Greenfield Central this year, but that might be something that they look at and they look at as an advantage. Mm-hmm. I remember Vince had told me that before. There was a pretty good team, and they were kind of roughing people up, and they had Portage. I think it was one of Vegas' first years, and Vince wasn't at Crown Point yet. I was I think this is going to be a good duel. He's like, nah. He's like, because those kids are real tough, and these guys are fake tough. He said, when real tough runs into fake tough, they kind of back down. And I'm not saying any of those guys are fake tough, but those guys are pretty physical. Like you watch some of the Hobart kids on that day too of Al Smith, and they have some pretty physical kids.
Yeah.
And I don't know if like a lot of teams, like it's always one of those things that I used to hear when we go down to state. They'd be like, "Oh, they wrestle that region style," and it would be more Portage though. They wrestle that region style, and I'm like, "Well, what is that?" They're like aggressive, heavy on the hand, borderline fighting.
Yeah.
And like I said, I thought that was like region style until I saw Ohio and they're actually jabbing kids. But I think like that's always a very interesting dynamic. I hope it has some movable parts too.
Mm-hmm.
That I think they have some pieces they can kind of move around. They're getting some guys healthy. I would be willing to bet like you haven't seen like their full team yet because I think I know they had some guys. Their lineup was different from the Harvest than it was at the Al Smith, and it's probably different than it is in a duel.
Yeah. So yeah, there's gonna be a lot of good matches. Right off the bat. In this division. So I'm, I think all the divisions are really competitive, which is cool to see. Even there's some favorites. 1A, 2A. I think there's a couple, but they're not guaranteed. They're not going to run away with it like when we had Yorktown just killing everybody, and so it's going to be interesting to see how this and like you said, the region style is something that as a coach, I going over to the Al Smith was seeing some of those region guys and seeing, hey, these are guys that we're going to see in the first round of state. We got to realize that I can tell you they're going to be physical. They're going to punch you in the face, and the ref's not going to call it. I can tell you that all day, but until you feel it and say, okay, yeah, you're right, coach. Yeah, yes, I was, and then you can make adjustments. And so, Greenfield Central's gonna have to be ready for that kind of style, or it's gonna be a rough morning.
Coach Holden's gonna have those guys ready too.
Yeah,
they're right. 170 is gonna be good. Costello and Clay Guerin.
Yeah,
I think that'd be a good match. Clay's wrestling real well.
Yeah, both of them are wrestling real well. That'll be a good.
Yeah, Costello's wrestling well. I did read the article. It was good. It was really good. It was not behind a paywall.
Yeah.
What's tough. I don't know if there's a favorite in there. I mean, Ron Kelly's the one. Like, is Ron Kelly the favorite? Like, what did Ron Kelly place at Al Smith or at North or the Mater Dei?
Mater Dei? I do not know.
Greenfield Central was at obviously Mishawaka, Columbus East, and Hobart were at Al Smith.
Let's see.
East Central at the Cub Classic, the world famous Cub Classic. Reserve your spot for next season.
Roncalli, they were 10th. That's interesting.
Terre Haute South and was at what was Floyd Central there?
Floyd Central was 9th. So yeah, that's I don't know what it looks like. They had most of their guys there. Shetley, Getz didn't place. You had Blake and Braden Getz didn't place. You had Lowry win it. Hansen won it. I don't know their lineup well enough to know if they had guys out. But yeah, that's.
I don't think Floyd's been healthy either. That might have been the first time Floyd's been there too. I know Ryan's been out a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, Terre Haute South was at Mooresville. So these guys were all in big tournaments. They're gonna be ready. Terre Haute South is at real tough Mooresville. Greenfield is at the Spartan Classic.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So it looks like Luke Schwartz didn't wrestle. They had some. RD3 didn't wrestle there either.
I know he's been out for a while. I know he had hurt his ankle in a match, so I don't know if he's going to go this weekend or not.
He's listed on their roster now, so I guess they had some guys out. So that Luke Schwartz is pretty good heavyweight. Deckard, those guys are going to score them probably 20 points each, so that makes a big difference there. So yeah, that's going to be a good day of wrestling there at Franklin. So
what's the hotel, the haunted hotel Dane likes to stay at in Franklin?
I don't know. I forgot.
Bro, there's like one that he sent me, like, this is where you got to stay. And I was like, bro, that place looks haunted. And then I Googled it, and it is haunted.
Yes.
Allegedly, if you believe in ghosts.
Allegedly. Yeah. So
but tell me you ever go into a basement when it's like all extra creepy and don't believe in ghosts.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I don't like haunted places.
No.
I stay away
Nice. They
from
said
those.
Becker was back last night.
Nice. That's good.
RD3.
That's good. So so
Where,
well,
dude, I'm gonna look. I'll look it up before the end of the show. As Joe's telling, what was Greenfield Central at? Terrell South was third at Mooresville,
yeah.
behind Carmel and Delta. Pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, that should be pretty I mean, it's going to be real competitive.
That's They said Ron Colley beat Greenfield Central in a duel last night.
Okay. Yeah, that's the someone
1850s
uploaded the results
Central
but
Indiana.
yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah. So they where are you staying there, Cook? We'll tell you if that's it. um
Greenfield Central won Connorsville pretty handily too. So
yeah. Yeah.
I think that'd be an interesting day of wrestling. Like that's gonna. I mean, obviously 3A is gonna have. I think that's gonna be pretty good.
Yeah. So we will move up. 4A is going to be fun. There's a lot of good wrestling. You're basically going to look at, I mean, Crown Point Penn. Crown Point's pretty good. I think Crown Point Carmel Prairie is going to be kind of ugly there. Center Grove Mater Day match might be kind of interesting. Center Grove, a couple guys missing from the lineup. Cresia at 45, and then no Johnson, Nate Johnson. I know Johnson got dinged up a little bit at Al Smith. That's on their roster here, but
I didn't see what had happened to him.
I think it was an ankle. It happened in his match with Weingart, and he ended up coming back and winning. So I don't know. I mean, these rosters are not. I mean, that could be Coach Swain playing some games or what.
I found the hotel.
Uh-oh.
Does Jason want to know?
Yeah.
It's the Willard.
The Willet?
The Willard.
Willard. Ah.
Dude, it looks scary, bro.
Focus on half defense. Yeah.
All right, sorry. Back to the topic. If you're staying at the Willard, make sure you bring something for the ghosts.
Yes. Bring a token of peace. I don't know what you bring ghosts for peace, but hey.
Bring a proton pack and
I hope Greenfield stays there. Nice. So anyway, back to Center Grove. So Cresia's not there at 45. Johnson had looked like an ankle. These rosters aren't set in stone, so they could show up and weigh in and wrestle. It could be, like we said earlier, it could be some games there. Coach Schwann's just playing with some people.
They had a couple injuries too.
Yeah.
Williams went out at the Al Smith also. I think he defaulted down to 8th, right?
Yeah, he defaulted in his last match. So so it'll be interesting to see what they roll out. Without those guys, it's Mater Day kind of has a sneaky tough team. It's one of those teams that they have some pretty solid guys. But a lot of them aren't totally proven yet. We don't know exactly how good they are. They're solid. They're Mater Day kids, which adds a element there that other kids don't have. So it'll be interesting to see how they, without two of your big guns, that could change the dynamics of that match pretty quickly.
They have a lot of guys listed on their roster also.
Yes.
And they have some pretty heavy hitters. Like at 120, they have 2 Schaefers and a Bauman. Pretty good.
Yeah.
I would say those are pretty good pieces to have in there. I mean, I don't know how much you're going to be able to move guys around because you got a guy like Sang in there. Still, always a lot of the same names, which I always think is really, really cool. But it'll be interesting to see what they can do. Center Grove's really good, and we've known this for a while. But they coming out of Al Smith, if they don't have Johnson, that's huge.
Yeah.
If Weems is not 100%, that's huge. he didn't look 100%. Krejci, I thought I had heard he was going to be back for this one. I heard he was going to be back for Al Smith. Obviously, he wasn't. But I mean, when he's in there, that's a difference making. Guy is a top 3 guy in the state rankings.
Yeah.
But
so yeah, that could be very interesting there. Where's it going? I was gonna look at that roster again. Because Center Grove's pretty deep. They might have a few places where they can move some guys around. I don't know where. I mean, I know a little bit. I think they've gotten some of their guys spread out, so they're not quite as deep in some of those weights. But I know,
man, those dudes lift weights, right? Like some of those guys were like 32 pounders. They jumped up to like Clouster at one point was like a 26, I thought.
Yeah.
McConnell was at 32 at one point. Now he's like looks like a full 95.
Yeah. There's some big guys. They were bunched up there for a couple of years, and they've got which you want to get those guys in the lineup, and getting them away from each other. So that it should be interesting to see how that one goes up. I'm gonna switch to this. We have a nice fancy. Which one? We got a little bit of a matchup. We can kind of go through and kind of see where some of the bigger matchups are. These are obviously not set in stone by any means, but should be some interesting matches here. Do we want to do Center Grove and Mater Dei?
Is that like yeah, we could do that. I mean, Center Grove Mater Dei, I think it's tougher because I don't know. Because Mater Dei did graduate a lot, so I'm not really positive of how tough those guys are. I mean, I guess going off the Mater Dei results from the Classic, but even this is like a good these are like some blue bloods, right?
Yeah.
Crown Point Penn right off the bat, that'll be pretty good. They get to see Crown Point back-to-back weekends. Crown Point had a couple guys out last night, so you never know. I know Ball was out. I believe Paul Clark was out. Evan Cruz was out.
Yeah, it was senior night too, so I wonder if Paul was out because of senior night. I guess we go over kind of some of what we saw with the lineups before we go too deep. Brownsburg and Crown Point have a little bit some interesting stuff in their lineups. Obviously, like we've said multiple times, this is just what they're putting in. It could be them just kind of messing with each other a little bit. But for Crown Point, you have Captor at 126.
Which I think gives them some flexibility.
Yeah. And also, Griffin Fanchelt at 32. Jacob Jones is a guy that was at Andrea. He was a semi-state qualifier. Right?
Yeah, I believe as a freshman. I don't think he wrestled as a sophomore. Now he's a junior. I believe he was a middle school state champ also. Mm-hmm. But for some reason they have like an Iowa ranked linked to his to his track wrestling.
Yeah.
But I believe he was a middle school champ. Real talented, good bloodline. Escobedo Hernandez is his cousin.
Yeah. Then the other big one, Anthony White, who's wrestled 95 for them pretty much the whole season. He's listed at 182, which would give them some flexibility with him and Cruz.
Yep.
That would be very interesting, especially once we get to like the Brownsburg matchup. So there's a little bit of they might have some flexibility in there, and if those guys are at those weights, they're giving themselves flexibility to. In case, like we said, there are some guys out. Ball didn't wrestle. Al Smith didn't wrestle last weekend. Will he be back? Maybe, but if not, they have a little bit of flexibility to play around with their lineup a little. You want to get your 14 best guys in the lineup and give yourself, as good of a chance as possible. Obviously, with Christian Washington's pretty solid. Jacob Jones, you could bump up Captor, Van Telt, and Cruz.
Griffin Van Titchell.
Titchell. I can't. So, yeah. I mean, there's some flexibility in there.
I only know those guys. I talk to those guys.
Yeah.
Gavin Gendris said his name is Gendris, not Gendreas.
Gendris. Well, whatever. No. Okay, so then
He asked me if I was going to say it right in the finals. Did I always say it right?
yeah, and then Brownsburg has both Haynes and Hockaday at 113, which gives them a little bit of flip flopping. You're not really losing much, but like when we'll go over to the Brownsburg and Crown Point match, I would feel more confident if I was Brownsburg with Hockaday versus Jandris, um, you know, than Haynes. I mean, I think that you're not losing much, but Hockaday's beaten him twice, and
Yep.
fairly well in control there. Tommy Gibbs and Landon Haynes at 126. They've been kind of splitting time a little bit, and then the other interesting one that
45, Jesse Derringer, who's been wrestling 52 for them, both at 45 with Mason Day.
yeah. And then once Caden Brewer is listed at 170, which would be very interesting. I know he's wrestled like 75 at some of the Ohio tournaments, so obviously that's another couple pounds from what he's been making on a fairly regular basis because they go over to Ohio every week.
Yeah.
So that could be interesting, especially when we get down to like a Crown Point matchup, and that gives them a little. I mean, last year they dropped Gunner down kind of last second. Like, I'm sure it wasn't last second, but kind of surprised everyone, and it paid off for him in the end. And so
Yeah.
it should be. You got Max Forrester at 220, which would be very interesting if he's down there.
Because he's a large individual.
Yes.
I heard he was out with injury, but if I thought he could be at 220 at the beginning of the year. We were told he wasn't going to be at 220. He's listed as a 220.
We were told he was injured. Who knows?
Yeah. He's a talented wrestler. That's if he's at 220, he's going to be a pretty big 220, especially for a sophomore.
Yeah, and he was like a middle school state champ too, right?
Yeah, I believe he's a middle school state champ,
Yeah.
Middle school runner-up and champ.
Yeah, so he's pretty solid. That's someone that if they can get him in the lineup, it'll help him for duels. I don't know. I mean, you don't know how you do like individual tournament wise, but duel wise, I think that'd be a little bit of an upgrade from Sargent. So that's the interesting kind of things we saw there. Kind of going over those pre-show. Obviously that they're gonna, you don't usually get to see kind of lineup shifts or anything like that, especially at the 4A level. Usually you got to run it straight up. There's very few times where you have a movable part, but so that kind of adds some intrigue. We were kind of talking, what do you do here? Do you put him here? Do you put him here? How do you match up here? That kind of stuff. And if so and so's out, what do we do? I mean, we're kind of trying to go over 1,000 scenarios. So,
Oh yeah, like if we're doing it, I'm sure those guys are like way doing it better than we are.
yes, yes, and they kind of know if their guys are going to be out or not, or kind of say, hey, we can't, we got a plan to, this guy's kind of banged up. We got a plan for him not wrestling or not being 100%, and maybe in a match where we think we're a major or a pin, maybe just getting a decision, and now we got to make up those 2 points, 2 or 3 points. So yeah, and that's gonna be a good. I mean, I think we both have had it like 7 and 7. There's some bonus points in there.
Ooh, okay. I just looked at Perry Meridians too. They have some guys that I've been wondering where they're at in the lineup, which I think helps them out.
Perry's pulling some. You got who they have. Bellerman's back down to 20, listed there, which is, I mean,
I think, yeah. Well, you look at Lynn, and then you have that puts Ryan Taylor at 13, who's been up at 20, Bellerman at 20, Morton obviously, but then there's guys like Jameson Roll. I think he had a nice win early on, and then he hasn't been in the lineup. And then you have guys like I haven't seen Jacob McClure in there at all. I know he's been a guy on the watch list. You Jalen Young wrestled 95 this weekend. Now he's at 82. So they're not going to get outmaneuvered. They're going to have some guys that have some movable parts too. They have a lot of guys on that roster.
Yeah, they have a lot of guys that are always pretty solid. I mean, they're always wrestling their their second team goes to a lot of varsity events and does pretty well. So they're going to be, their second team is going to be able to, they're going to be able to insert guys and move those parts if needed. So, yeah, that'll be
That could be an
interesting.
interesting first round match. I'm sure those guys, Carmel and Perry Meridian. I mean, a little Indy lineup right there.
Yeah, that should be it. That could be good. I mean, Carmel's Carmel. They're gonna roll out 14 really solid guys.
Oh yeah, I think they're just very solid across the board. They have I said they might have like one of the deepest like 32s in the state. It's just I mean like that's just part of it.
Yeah.
Isaac Ward, Emery Horrell. I thought they had one more guy. There was another guy
Thompson.
that was in the mix there too.
Thompson's not there.
Thompson's not listed, but Gavin Thompson was in that area. We got a qualifier at 6, a ranked guy at 13, Manley at 26, Ward at 32, Major at 38. Sabay's returning qualifier. Gallagher's been wrestling well. Powell's tough. Yeah. I think Milligan's tough. They're just a solid squad.
Yeah. That's one of those.
Like not like none of those guys are medalists, right? They don't have any medalists in there.
No.
But just top to bottom, like they're gonna be well coached. They're gonna be ready to go, and they'll wrestle a tough Perry team out the bat. It's kind of weird how it broke down, right? And I'm not saying I would have done it any different because I have no clue. Dane knows way more about that than I do. But we got the 2 East Chicago teams wrestling first, Crown Point and Penn. 2 Newcastle teams wrestling. 2 Evansville teams wrestling right off the bat, and then essentially, even though Brownsburg goes to Evansville, they're an Indy team wrestling, an Indy power.
Yeah. Carmel is one of those teams that you just hate to wrestle because you're like, okay, where's their holes? They don't have any, and you gotta. If you have holes, they're gonna exploit them, and it's just a knock. I mean, I guarantee that Perry Meridian Carmel duel might take 3 hours.
Yeah,
that might go into Sunday.
I think Penn and Carmel, Penn's similar, real solid. They do have a couple more like top level guys, but man, we talked about the Al Smith. Like Crown Point won 7 weights there. Like you could almost duel the field.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
No runners up, but 7 champs. Sessa was a 4. Haney was an 8, I believe. 13 was a champ. 26 was a champ. 32 was an 8th. 38 was like a 3 or 4. I think it was a 4. He lost to McGinley. 45 didn't wrestle, but another possible champ. 52 was a champ. 60 was a champ. 70 didn't wrestle, was a returning champ. 82 is a champ. 95 didn't what was he? He was 3rd.
Yeah.
220 and heavyweight are champs. Pretty good.
Yeah. That's pretty impressive.
I was talking to some of the Maryville guys last night, and they thought they wrestled them really well. And it's like, dude, they're just stacked. And I think they were without 4 starters last night. Yeah. And Maryville was like right in the mix. Like I think they were in the mix to be a voting team. I don't think that they would have accepted, but they're really, really good.
Yeah.
I think that's an understatement. But Brownsburg's really good too. But Brownsburg Center Grove has some matchups that are interesting. But Center Grove has some interesting matchups with Modern Day. Cathedral could get a couple from Brownsburg. That heavyweight match would be good. Those are 2 pretty big athletes going at it.
Yeah. That
McGinley's wrestling well.
Yeah, that could be a real good. Yeah, that's gonna be a good one too.
Was Aiden Torres in there? 220. They could probably get some points. They didn't look at Cathedral's lineup. Yeah, Aiden Reyes is in there. That's a good one at 26. Josh Johnson has a medal. McGinley wrestled real well at Al Smith. Dylan Graham was a semifinalist. Weigert got some medal. Jose Smith got some medal. So that could be a tough one too, honestly.
Yeah. Hold on a second. Let's see what the
Kyle Harden, real tough freshman.
Why is that not pulling in? Darn it. Because I don't have them in there. That's why.
I don't know if they'll have a. I mean, a lot of it's gonna come down to bonus points too, right? Like we've
Yeah.
talked about that at every level. Um, and I think that's like when I did the Crown Point and Brownsburg duel, that's kind of what it comes down to, is like can they split 7-7? I have it 7-7. I've had it 7-7 since October,
Yeah.
but like CP has some guys that are gonna get bonus points. Now they're a little dinged up too, and so is Brownsburg. They didn't wrestle. Like Hockaday didn't wrestle at Brecksville. Um, part of wrestling that monster schedule is you wrestle a lot of monsters, and sometimes you get banged up. It's a grind, and you're wrestling monsters in the room.
I guess I
So
don't have Cathedral in there. Where's that pulling from? Wrestlers. I don't have them in there. So we can't do that matchup. So
I mean that one could be, I think Cathedral could get 5. Could they sneak a couple other ones? I'm not 100% sure, but I mean, not that they're favored in 5. I think there's 5 winnable matches for them off top.
yeah, let's see what they have. And you get 52, 60, 70 will be is a winnable match.
But I think 26 is a winnable match. I thought, with
Reyes,
Aiden Reyes.
Um, Josh,
38.
John, yeah,
Close.
John Johnson, McGinley at 38 is, Dylan Graham at 45. Those aren't any, those are matches that
70,
52.
70 Kyle Harden.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely have some winnable matches in there. 220, there'll be a favorite. 285 is a winnable match. I think it was a pretty close match at state last year. So, yeah, they have some, but they're going to also give up probably bonuses at 6,
Yep.
possibly 13, possibly 20,
Yep.
32, probably not bonus, but that might be a bonus point match. But yeah, there's some, 95 is going to be probably a bonus. So it'll be interesting to see how that matchup goes. And that's one of those matches I think Cathedral knows they're the underdogs, but they're not gonna shy away from it. But they're also kind of excited that, hey, we get to wrestle Brownsburg. We're gonna be able to get our hands on them. We're gonna be able to make adjustments for state series, and that's obviously you want to win, but you also know Crown Point and Brownsburg are really good. So why not get to see them? They've already seen a lot of the Crown Point kids. So now you get to go see them, and possibly, if the seeds work out, you get to see Modern Day, another good matchup that you don't usually get to see. You get your hands on those, and those guys make good adjustments at state. there's no question.
Man, like that could be like the prestige. Like you can lay out a lot of rings for Cathedral and Modern Day.
Yeah, and that's one
Bringing
of those,
all the state champ alumni, you'd have a full house.
yeah, and that's that one of those things that Cathedral's good at making adjustments, and hey, you get to possibly see Brownsburg and Modern Day and get your hands on them, get some film, get some, make some adjustments, and you don't bet against Cathedral on Friday night, that's for sure.
No.
So, which one do we want to do first? Center Grove, Modern Day? This is kind of what the matchups look like.
Yeah, I think if Center Grove's without Nate Johnson, that's a huge swing. If they're without Wyatt Crazier,
I'm just putting threes for actually they're not they're favorites here. I would maybe say we got a favorite there. Crazier, I'd probably put in there. Clay Martin's definitely a favorite. And now you're looking at 6 matches there.
And how injured was Weems at Al Smith?
Yeah.
Injured enough that he withdrew basically from the tournament.
Yeah. And I think
he's gonna go,
yeah.
But that's tough, man. You're asking a 15-year-old or 16-year-old kid, 15 or 16, depending on when his birthday is. Hey, we need you to go out there and suck it up. Banged up. That could be tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then it comes down to like Evan saying Hyatt Yeager match. How about it comes down to that 32, right?
Yeah,
Two unranked guys.
yeah. Elper's a senior. And one thing, you have Vanover at 38. Just kind of looking at who they have. Vanover, Reese Courtney, Hunter May, Joey Pierre at 160 is not bad. That could be. Obviously, they have Merritt. There's some matches in that. Right now, kind of just going off rankings and stuff. It's an 8-6 split. That's pretty close. As far as and Meyer Day kids don't get pinned very often, even and they're kind of frustrating to wrestle. So yeah, if they don't have Crezier or Johnson, it's gonna be a lot closer than you would have anticipated.
Oh yeah.
A couple weeks ago.
Well, those are big. Those are big points. I mean, those are top 10 kids.
Yeah, and Johnson's a pinner. Johnson is a pinner. So that's a pretty big loss for them. So that could be really interesting coming down there. So let's check out the Brownsburg matchup. So Dickman's really good on top. Really good there.
Yeah.
I
would favor Dickman there.
Yeah, Hockaday. You got Haynes and Yeager, Ison, Ethan Day, Reynolds and Courtney. That'll be a fun one. If Creature's not wrestling, he's not on the roster. Definitely gonna give that to Day. And Daringer Stitz.
Yeah, I'd probably say Stitz. Stitz wrestled really well at Al Smith too.
Yeah.
Merritt,
Klauser.
Merritt might be 6. Yeah, Merritt and Klauser both might get 6. But again, it comes down to like, is he gonna wrestle? But if Weems does wrestle, who did Weems lose to last year? We said at the regional.
That was Klauser is the one that lost to Brewer.
Yeah.
So and that could be Brewer's down at 70. Maybe they go head up right there. So
they said Harris Weems was in last night versus Harrison.
Okay. So then you got a Gunnar Henry right there. What happens here? I would say it's a 6 if he wrestles. And then you got a 3, and then that might be it's real close.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 5, 6, 7, and that's an 8-6 split. I think there might be able to get some bonus points. Hockaday, Goss might be able to get some bonus points. Ison, obviously, I probably should have put some bonus points in there.
Yeah.
That's an interesting matchup there. If Johnson doesn't wrestle, I mean, you can put a 3 in there and it gets real ugly. For that kind of high level match, 10 points is a pretty ugly match. That could be, looking at some of those matchups, it's going to be a good one there. Depends on who wrestles and who's ready to wrestle there.
Yeah, I think that, this time of year, you're dealing with injuries, you're dealing with a lot of stuff. So that could be huge.
Yeah. Their paths to victory for Center Grove, that they.
Can you how banged up is Nate Johnson? Is a 60% Nate Johnson still going to get you a dub there?
I would, Sergeants, one thing I know is Snyder, those teams always are well coached for dual meets. They know their roles. The kids know their roles. They say, hey, you know what, Sergeant, you wrestle Nate Johnson here, don't get pinned. He's banged up, just, stay in good positions, play the edge, do that, stall, do whatever you need to do. That they have great strategies there. So, but Nate Johnson, he's a thrower. He's a 60%. All he needs is 15 seconds. Sure. Yeah, he just needs 15 seconds. And hey Nate, is your ankle good enough for 15 seconds? Yep. Okay, let's go.
Hey, you out there hit that one hitter quitter, fluff the mullet and roll out.
Yeah, fluff it up and say, "See you guys." Yeah, and that changes the dynamic greatly there. and they, the thing is, Center Grove, kind of like a Carmel, they run out 14 really solid kids. Um, there's only really the only one that's not on the rankings is Ethan Day, and then obviously
Yeah.
with Krasia there, if he's not wrestling, that could be, if he wrestles, you know, there we're looking,
Yeah. I
it's,
don't think, and like from what it sounded like, it wasn't like anything devastating.
yeah,
Like he was closer to, like there's other guys closer to being pulled out of the rankings than he was.
yeah, yeah, yes. So yeah, so I mean, and then you look at that. I switch it up just a little bit, and then they have paths of victory. Reese Courtney,
Yeah.
Parker Reynolds, really big match right there. That's gonna be fun. Parker Reynolds is tough. Courtney's tough.
Yeah.
Gonna be fun to see Reynolds versus some Indiana guys.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun to see these Brownsburg guys versus any Indiana guys, right? That's not
Yes.
a point.
Yeah. So yeah, and we're gonna get a good test. See what Mason Day is one of those guys. I know we haven't seen him against the Indiana guys. We know he's pretty solid. He's had some good results, but we got to see him against those Indiana guys. So that should be interesting. Yeah, just there's paths of victory for Center Grove. Obviously, losing 2-year starters is going to be not an easy task.
Oh yeah.
Path to victory gets slim, real slim.
Oh yeah. I mean that's a much tougher. I mean, if you take out 2 starters of any lineup,
Yeah.
of that like caliber, like Nate Johnson, returning state qualifier at heavyweight, coming down a weight, Krasia, a medalist. Like you lose any 2 from any squad, it's going to be a lot tougher.
Yeah, I mean, take any of these 40 teams that are there. Go take 2 stars away from Rochester. Are they the favorites in 1A? No.
Yeah.
Take it from any, and especially 2 state level, state place level kids. And that's what we're, even looking at Crown Point. Possibly, obviously Ball was out, didn't wrestle last night. Taking him out of the lineup, they can do some things, but I'd much rather have Ball in the lineup.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like they didn't have Sammy, and they didn't have Ball. They didn't have Paul Clark, and they didn't have Evan Cruz. Like, those are 4 pretty good guys. Those are 4 guys that were at the state finals. A champ, a runner-up, third placer. Or was he a 4th placer? Paul Clark was a 4th placer.
Yeah.
And a qualifier.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not easy.
Cruz
And we're still able to beat Maryville pretty handily.
Yeah.
Like 48-18 or something.
Cruz is probably still crying about that loss to me. Almost got he might have got rolled up in that mat. He might be stuck in a mat in Mishawaka. Someone might want to go check on him. So, now I got the Crown Point Brownsburg matchup. This is going to be interesting. I'm going to guess that we'll probably get. I'm going to make sure we request to see some of those Wayne sheets because that'd be very interesting. I think Dickman's a pinner. Dickman, first time really seeing him
Dickman wrestled Haney at the Carnahan and pinned him in 53 seconds.
I think we can put a 6 there. And that's the first time I've really seen Dickman. I was more worried that his size at Iron Man. He looks like he's a good size 6-pounder. And he's good on top. I remember the one match, one of the first or second round matches, he got taken down. Kid chose down on him and didn't get up. So, I would say Hockaday maybe goes at 13. I think that's a little bit.
Hockaday goes, that's gonna be a huge swing.
Mm-hmm.
I think Hockaday gives you a little bit more comfort room, but is that a hard cut?
Yeah.
Like Gendra's coming back off an injury. And, how hard is that cut for Hockaday?
Yeah, it's going to be end of the day, which would be better. But at the same time, I almost think that once you start getting towards the end, I think the middle of the day, you're better. At the end of the day, you're kind of, everything's starting to sit in, So, yeah, that'd be, that's going to be an interesting one. I think, like I said, I'd be, not that I think Haynes when I think Haynes is a little bit of a favorite, but I think you get a little more comfort room there. Obviously, if you're cutting him down there, you're probably doing that for that match to give you.
Yeah,
and how could they comfortably?
It could backfire. It was 4-3 last year at the state finals. It wasn't a blowout.
Yeah. So, and then I think
they're both good, but you're not it's not like you're cutting him down to get a stick and a stick. You know, like Gendricks could beat him.
Yeah,
It was 4-3, and I think Gendricks is in a real good attack at the end. I think he just waited too long.
yeah, yeah. And then you got a good matchup either way with Hockaday and Sessa. You know, and maybe they keep Haynes down there. Hockaday's more probably of a pinner, more dynamic scorer. Haynes and Sessa might keep that to a decision.
Yeah.
Haynes seems to be the one that's, especially Sessa's gonna be, they're gonna always gonna be the underdog. He's gonna be doing everything to not give up bonus points. That's one of those matches that you could get bonus points is going to be interesting. This is where it kind of could get very interesting. You could have a captor Landon Haynes. That'd be a really interesting match, and then a Frazier Ison. So you're gonna take out one of their big guns. You're gonna put one of your big guns against one of their big guns, and one of their, I hate to say, their mediocre guns is a 6 and a 12. Where that could be really interesting. I think Logan probably gets a major here if he stays down there.
At least I know he majored the kid that pinned him there.
Yeah. And
Has
then
Logan and Ison ever wrestled in high school?
I think Ison ran into Sergio. I'm fairly
Yeah,
positive.
I think he was on the other side.
Yeah. Then
The year that Sergio didn't, he just wanted to be, an Indiana guy for 1 year.
Yeah. So he wanted to wrestle under the lights. So then a Parker Reynolds, Evan Cruz, that'll be a good one. And then we're gonna get a good test on Mason Day.
I believe he beat. What was the score of that when they wrestled?
Who?
Parker Reynolds and Cruz wrestled at.
Carnahan. I forgot they.
I believe it was I thought that it was 5-0 Parker Reynolds.
Okay. So that makes it easier. Then you got a Ball Mason Day.
They wrestled at Carnahan also.
I
believe that was a decision.
Okay.
9-4.
So that's another 3 there. Reinhardt, Daringer. That's probably going to be some bonus.
Yeah, I would say Reinhardt's probably a pretty heavy favorite in there.
Goodwin, Ortega.
I'd almost go 6 on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Then here we get interesting. This is where we were kind of discussing. Now we got some movable parts. Brewer Goodwin or Brewer versus Cruz. I mean, those are 2 tough matches. That's not a. You're trying to find the lesser of 2 evils, and there's no lesser. There, you got.
No, I think. Did Brewer wrestle Cruz this year? No. I think he wrestled Cruz last year, right? Did he bump to Russell Cruz?
I do not.
Was that the bump they did at Team State last year?
Let's see. Hold on. Results. Team results.
Yeah, it was a 19-5 major decision.
Okay, yeah. So that one didn't work out too well. So that'd be a major right there. This is probably Tyler Jones there. That's probably a stick.
Cody's a pinner, I would say.
Yeah. Cody's he's gonna pin somebody. He likes that cradle. I'd say Gunner's probably a 4 there. Will Clark might be a 6 there.
I'm trying to look at my Carnahan bracket, see if they wrestled. I believe White was in that one. See if Gunner
pinned him, so that was a 6.
Yeah.
So we'll shift that to a 6. Let's see any other.
Flyer. Will Clark did not wrestle Sargent. Nope.
No, there are no other matchups there. So there's kind of what we have there. So now,
where I think it could be very interesting, and I haven't asked these guys. I don't try to ask strategy. There's some really good movable parts at 13. Like if you could take Hockaday down, you could take both those with Gendricks. like Haynes at 26. You're gonna lose the Frazier. Then you have a guy like Tommy Gibb that you can put out at 32. That would I would assume would be the favorite over Captor and Van Tichel. Move Ison up to beat Cruz. If I mean like maybe he beats Cruz. I don't know if they've ever wrestled, but then they probably would have wrestled last year.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at like, does Parker Reynolds go up and wrestle Ball?
Yeah.
And could Parker Reynolds get that win?
Yeah.
If Ball's wrestling, if Ball's out, that's a huge turn.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That they're gonna. I mean, I just switched those up, and we're just giving them decisions. That's 32-31 now. Now you're looking at, hey, put Brewer. I mean, save the decision right there. You know, we're tied. You know that type of stuff. Or Tyler Jones versus Cody Goodwin. Don't get pinned. Do whatever.
I know
you can.
last year they were incredibly. Browns were incredibly frustrated at Crown Point. I know talking to the Crown Point guys, they called me on the way back that they felt like that the official let those guys kind of wrestle the lines a little bit and stay out of some situations.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think, and I mean, I didn't feel that way. Obviously, they're coming off, they won, but it was emotional. But they felt like that there could have been a lot more stalling. And again, it's the same thing. There we go. and I think it's the same thing. Like you're getting different officials down there than you are up north, and maybe you're getting some of those north officials also. Like there's guys up north that are going to call stalling in the first period. We know who it is. We see it. We're like, okay, that's going to be a stall. There it is. I don't know the Southern officials as much, but there's definitely a different style of wrestling that they're looking at.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But those guys are going to go out there to try to save points.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's going to be guys that are going to be asked. I'm sure if it plays out like this, Tyler Jones is going to be asked to go out there and wrestle Cody Goodwin on the lines, frustrate him, and I think he got frustrated in the match last year, right?
Yeah. He got frustrated in that match, and they, and gave themselves a chance. Even like a Reinhardt, if you bump up a Mason Day, Reinhardt, hey, Mason, don't give up the pin. Give up a major, hey, look, there's a 1-point win. It's one of those things that there's some, Brownsburg can give themselves a chance in those spots.
I mean, it plays the other way too, I think there's some other play that you could say, these guys, Orlando Cruz coming off a huge win over, Dial Capon Vizzi. Maybe he gets a tech there. He's wrestling really well. Not saying Caden Brewer is not, but I mean, you can play both sides of it, right? Yeah. Like maybe you do bump like a Tommy Gibb up, and then you find out like, wow, Griffin Van Tichel is an 11-time ISWA champ. Like he's pretty good. Like maybe we misstepped there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they have Anthony White down at 82. You got White versus a Brewer. That's that might be a 3 there, and then you got Gunner and Cruz.
Well, what if you flip?
Yeah.
What if you flip that and you send Brewer out there to wrestle Cody because you got Brewer at 70, and they're like, cool, we got White at 82, and he goes out and beats Tyler Jones, and they bump Orlando to wrestle Gunner.
Yeah. That's Then it starts getting to a interesting area. Yeah, I mean it's one of those things that's going to be interesting where they start. I mean that's one of the first things first thing I'm going to ask for is a weigh-in sheet, and number 2, where are you starting?
Oh yeah, that's going to be huge too.
Yeah.
Like in that match, where do you want it to see it end at? Like what's the one that you're like, Hockaday, Gendress if he's at 13?
That
was the last match. That was a good match last year there. Remember they were putting up heavy points. I think we felt that Hockaday was trying to go for a fall.
Yeah,
and I think Gendress put up his back, and I think it ended up being pretty high scoring, and then it was 4-3 at the state finals.
Yeah. I think it was like 12-10 or 12-9 or something. And I think he needed the fall or tech fall, which he wasn't going to tech fall him. I mean, you're not going to tech fall someone like him. And so I think he's just like, I got to go for the fall. And he was throwing everything at him. So yeah, I wanted to end like at about 45. I think 45 would be a good one because you're gonna get right to that point where you're gonna not, you're gonna force one or both teams to figure out what the heck are you gonna do. Are you gonna pull the shift? Are they're
Well,
gonna.
what if and I know talking with some people earlier, they felt that we were lower on Jake Hockaday on the I think that we were lower on Jake Hockaday on the pound for pound. That they felt that the person I talked to from the Brownsburg community felt that like he would beat Logan Frazier. What if that's the match? Like, what if they're like, you know what, we're not going to weigh him in at 13. We'll bump our champ to your champ and let's finish it out with that.
That'd be fun. Yeah.
That would be real fun.
Yeah. So yeah, that's gonna be because it'd be cool if it started at 52 because then you're gonna get a little bit of that Crown Point run, and then you gotta throw out your stoppers where you're gonna wherever they're gonna put Brewer. Brewer's gonna kind of have to be that first stopper of even just winning or not getting pinned, and then you're gonna have Gunner, and then you're gonna have your Jones.
What was Jones and Clark was a pretty decent match at Iron Man, right?
Yeah, it was like a 4-2-5.
I think it ended up getting away from a little bit at the end, right?
Yeah. So that, I mean, Paul Clark's really good at wrestling, but he also likes to try some interesting maneuvers and
Yeah.
bad spots. So that'll be interesting.
And he likes to bleed. He likes blood.
Yes. So, and Leighton, I mean, the thing is, if Leighton turns it on and says, hey, you know what, I want to get a pin here, I'm not going to put it past Leighton to get a pin. Leighton can pin people when he turns it on. He's a freak athlete.
Oh, yeah.
So that'd be,
Division I, Big Ten football playing athlete going to a Big Ten school that produces high level offensive linemen every year.
Yeah, and I think at the Iron Man, he was just getting his feet underneath him. I think it takes him a little bit longer to get kind of in shape. He said that, and now he's been wrestling. He's been getting full matches. I think that's one of the good things about them going over to Ohio with a lot of the individual tournaments. He's been getting those matches, so hopefully, if he's got to probably kind of take a little bit more of a leap than Paul would from there to from Iron Man to this weekend. So he might be able to extend that to a major or a pin. Probably more likely a pin than a major, I would say. But he gets a pin there, that's gonna change the dynamic because I think,
and like I'm not trying to be like, but the Clark brothers, I think more than any of the guys on Crown Point this year have really impressed me.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Like they went at the Carnahan. Crown Point, like they knew they lost those points from Cody. They're like, we need to like close this out strong, right? And it's like, hey, you have Will Clark getting a stick, and then you get Paul Clark. They both got pins in the championship match against pretty tough team. They're pretty tough individuals. Mm-hmm. And it was like those guys just came up big. Now, do I think that they're going to do that against a Leighton Jones? What if they bump Gunnar Henry to wrestle Will Clark? He's had success against Will.
Yeah. That's another thing they could do. And yeah, it's just there's a lot of. It's very interesting, especially at this level that you usually don't have those. Usually you're gonna have to wrestle straight up, but both teams have a little bit of flexibility, which depend. Who has the choice? Who's gonna throw out who? And I can tell you, I think Derek is a very good dual team coach, and he's gonna know we want odds here, we want evens. Yep. We're gonna see who they're gonna throw at it at 182, and then we're gonna make a move. And I think they're gonna have to make a move. I honestly almost think that they have to win 8 matches. I mean, I can see it probably will be 7-7. They're gonna. I think the bonus on Crown Point's gonna get them. So I think
the 2 kids that Clark's pinned at the Carnahan, the Paul pinned the 7th placer from Iron Man, and Will pinned the 6th placer from Iron Man.
Nice.
To close it out.
Nice. That's good.
I mean, like, and obviously we're doing hypotheticals, like, what if Center Grove does show up with their guys?
Yeah.
Those are huge when we put it in there. Like, what if, I think there's 5 matches, and that's not even counting in the middle where I think they're coin flips. But there's 5 matches that I think that Cathedral could win against them, but they could lose too. But they're in the mix.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're talking about guys, then you're asking some of those guys in the middle that, you know, how are these, high school kids reacting? Like when you're taking some of the guys that are maybe not Leighton Jones and Gunnar Henry and Jake Hockaday to Ohio, and they're getting beat up compared to like Cathedral taking their guys to Al Smith and maybe getting 3 or 4 wins, coming out feeling a little bit better. Like a lot of it's like, you ride this emotional roller coaster too.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's gonna. I'm kind of excited for this match. I think they can, they can make some moves, and it's there's a lot of possibilities that they can do, and they're gonna pull out the stops. I think they can. I see. You run them straight up, right? With these lineups, I think you got a 7-7, but the bonus is the difference. So I think Brownsburg either have to get some extra bonus or get an eighth match, which I think is going to be very difficult too. I don't know which one's easier.
Yeah, I thought last year the bump kind of burnt them, Brownsburg. I thought where they bumped it like in theory it could have made sense, but it ended up burning them, right?
Yeah.
Like, do you go back and say we're doubling down?
Yeah.
And I think that's like what makes those guys great coaches too. Like, yeah, like they know what they want to do, and they're not gonna let those decisions hurt them. But like, also to that, like, what if back-to-back years it doesn't work out?
Yeah. So who did they bumped? They bumped Gavin Garcia to Tatini, right? And Blaze Garcia.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And then Blaze Garcia up to Goen. And Tatini almost majored Gavin. Yeah. So yeah, that was an interesting one. And obviously they're bumping, Gavin versus Mendez. They were just obviously Jesse was going to do what
he had Gavin's number.
Yeah. Yeah, he had a few people's numbers.
He had a few people's numbers.
He has quite a Rolodex of numbers, let me tell you.
Yeah. He had some numbers. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. So that's one of those interesting what do you do? You look back. I guess what did they have at 52 to? I think they were hoping that Garcia would beat Tatini. I think that's what they were. I don't think they were thinking Blaze would win. He did what he needed to do, kept it to a decision. And then,
I actually thought Blaze wrestled that match really tough.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think they're trying to, which on paper, Gavin Garcia and Nick Tatini probably, that was a toss-up match. I would not have expected it to be a 6-point match, but, that was.
Yeah.
So, we'll go back here. So, yeah, it's going to be fun. I hope we're planning on possibly commentating on the finals match as long as things work out as far as hooking into the track wrestling stuff, which that'd be fun. And we're going to be there. I'll be there all day.
Will that be the platform we'll be on? We'll be on track wrestling?
Yeah. So, track wrestling / flow. I believe that's what I got to double check to make sure that we, what we need to do. I'm fairly positive I know what we need to do, but, so then we'll be there. I assume you'll be there all day. I'll be there all day.
Yeah, I'm gonna get there as soon as I get there, I guess. I'm planning on leaving pretty early on Saturday. And then when I get there, we're gonna hang out and watch some good wrestling and
follow the other wrestling. I'm gonna try to. I've already put in demands for Derek, just so you know. We're gonna have M&Ms, no green ones. We don't like the green ones. Someone's got to pick out all the green M&Ms. There's gonna
was it green M&Ms in Wayne's World? Remember he went on a bucket of one color of M&Ms.
Yes.
They had to kill a security guard.
Yeah.
His roadie.
Yeah. Yes. So I made a few unreasonable demands. So, uh,
That'd be great.
but yeah, so it should be. It's gonna be a great day of wrestling. I think I'm excited, and hopefully have a little bit of a perch. You can kind of keep an eye on the other results around the state, and they have a good facility. They have like a new video board and stuff that'll be kind of cool. So maybe
Uh,
we'll put our faces on there. We can do a quick preview.
nice. Well, we'll do it, man. See, a
Yeah,
lot of guys are good. It's gonna be exciting.
yeah.
It's gonna be good wrestling across the state, and I think that's
Mhm.
really cool. I know there's other events going on, so I don't want to like downplay that, but this is a really cool event, and I think there's a lot of energy at all those locations. Um, Man, I've never been to Franklin's gym. Is it that big to hold the 1A and the 3A?
Yeah, they have a pretty good size main gym, and then they have a field house, and they have like portable bleachers that they bring in that can hold a decent amount of people. So yeah, it'll be packed there, I'm sure still, but um, I mean it'll be probably better than last year's, at least from what I've gathered. So
Uh,
I
uh,
miss having it at one place because I'm gonna be.
yeah.
I know we're gonna be checking our phones and probably getting updates from 2A and 1A and 3A and be
Did the Coliseum just become too expensive, or like they don't want to get rid of the tractor event? Or was it the
um
farm to barn?
I think they lost the date, and I don't know if there's anything going on this weekend, but then they didn't. Just the location is some people didn't like that, so I don't know.
They don't want to go to beautiful Northeast Indiana this year, huh?
I guess not. Let's see. Is there anything going on? I know they have some things going on. Um, the American Outdoor Expo is going on. So yeah, it's going on in the they'd have to. I don't know how competing dates go, and I just know winter's kind of tough to get in there. So we'll, they need as Pat Culpa says, they need a coliseum down in the Indy area because it's a great facility. The price is pretty good compared to other places, compared to
We need one in the region too.
yes. Let's build one. Use the IndianaMat money.
Yeah,
So
we're gonna build it right in Hobart,
right on the brick road.
right on the brick road.
Well, we got bricklayers there, so we should be a little bit cheaper labor. They don't have to travel very far.
I do like that name. I think that's a great name. We can
Yeah.
put it right where the Radisson used to be. They tore it all down. They're gonna put something there now. It's not, I mean, Crown Point's doing a bunch of stuff. They just put a hospital on 65. So
Yeah, that
maybe
sounds.
we'll build a big stadium.
Yeah. So, whew. Oh man, it's 12 o'clock already. So, another late one. But any other
That was
things?
good.
Anything else we need to go over? I think.
I don't think so, man. I think we covered a bunch.
Yep.
It'll be exciting. You see us out there, make sure you say hi.
Yep.
You don't
Definitely.
have to, I guess. But
Bring
we'll
us
say hi back.
wings. Bring us wings. Certain people.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. We won't mention any names until we get wings. So yeah, we're gonna be there. So come say hi. If you have they're probably planning on starting about 3ish. I believe for the finals, one mat, and it'll be a doozy. So come watch some wrestling. So with that, we're gonna get out of here, and hopefully see some of you guys Saturday. If not, we'll see you probably next Tuesday.